What are various top MBA colleges in India? How an MBA leads startup towards success? What is the strategy for MAT exam preparation? What are the budget 2022 highlights? What is the latest group discussion topic for an interview? What if your CAT score is low? Think of a question related to your PGDM MBA journey. We have an answer. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sanjoli Jain and I welcome you all on behalf of MBAROI.in. MBAROI.in is an online platform which provides you each and every information related to MBA or PGDM. It could be types of MBA, MBA entrance exams, MBA coaching, MBA books, group discussion topics, tips on personal interview. It also gives information on various MBA colleges by location, by specialization, by ranking. It provides you each and every single update of IIMs. In today's era, students are very much interested in knowing the expected return they might get in future if they incur for taking admission in any MBA or PGDM institute. The return is calculated on the basis of average placements, highest placements, what companies are visiting the campus for recruitment, how are students being trained and groomed, what are the qualities of students, what are the qualities of faculties, what are the kind of amenities which PGDM institutes are providing. Don't you search for this? Therefore, ROI is very much required before taking admission in any college or any institute. Taking consideration into this, MBAROI.in provides you various calculators. For example, MBA Admission Predictor. It is a tool where a student can get a range of percentile score where that he or she must achieve to get admission in MBA colleges. We have another tool called Return on Investment, which tells how fast you recover your investment or on any college you are planning to take admission. We have IIM and non-IIM College Predictor. It is a tool where the students get to generate a list of colleges where they could apply based on their performance in the CAT exam. We have MBA ROI Strength Finder, which which measure your current strengths in management. We have Program Finder, we have other tools like Career Calculator, which calculate the success rate at different careers. So that's all about MBAROI.in. Now let's start with the MBA ROI case competition. It is one of the India's biggest case study contests where more than 2,200 students registered till now. And 1,400 plus colleges are participating, including all IIMs, IITs, XLRI, etc. Not taking much time of you, I would like to invite Professor Lavina Khilani from Taxila Business School. Taxila Business School is our knowledge partner. She is here to discuss with you all how to solve a case study. Professor Khilani has spent more than 17 years in teaching and training and has immense research experience. Thank you. Ma'am, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Sanjoli. She's from MBAROI.in and we, Taxila Business School, is a knowledge partner who is organizing this case study contest. And it's a matter of great, you can say, honor to us that around 2,200 students from all over India are participating in this competition. That's a wonderful enthusiasm which you all have shown. So let's discuss about, today I will be taking the webinar basically to understand how the case is analyzed. So what comes in your mind? Just think about it, students here. What comes in your mind when you think about a case? What is a case according to you? Can I have some answers in the chat window here? Yes, absolutely. Case is nothing but it's a kind of a situation. Yes, a case is a problem. Yes, a case is a story, but this kind of a story needs your personal interpretation. That is very important. Let me just give you a very common example, a day-to-day life example, where a doctor is trying to analyze the case of his patients. So what is he exactly doing there? He's trying to understand that what exactly is the problem of the patient. And yeah, there will be number of and multiple patients coming to him with common symptoms, with a similar kind of a problem. But do you know that the way the doctor is analyzing his patient is going to be entirely different in each and every case? He will not be prescribing the medication, similar kind of a medication, to all the patients he comes across. He analyzes. So the case study is a similar kind of a concept. You're trying to understand the case from your own perspective. You try to understand your patient by understanding what has been his past background, what kind of medication they're already on, and so on. And similarly, that's what you do even in your case study analysis. You need to have your own personal understanding on that. So basically, a case study is trying to give you a kind of an overview about a business and maybe the challenges the business comes across at a more practical and a realistic level. Of course, it is also giving you an opportunity to apply all kind of theoretical framework which you have used in your studies, in your graduation, in any kind of a course you have undergone. And of course, in a very, very precise and useful manner. So whether you are preparing for a B school interview or maybe you're going for an interview of your dream job, it is very, very critical for you to know how to understand the problem, how to break it down, maybe a very complex problem into simple form. And then maybe you can come up with some certain arguments. You can, come up with some kind of potential solutions associated with the case. So that's about your personal understanding on the case. Let me again give you a very simple and a very common example. For example, there is a case of a company where, the company is going in losses. For example, it's an advertising company for that matter. So if the company is going in losses, there might be other factors associated with the company. Now, advertising can be a print ad. Advertising can be, advertisement in magazine or maybe newspapers, or maybe there can be TV commercials as well. So we all understand that the advertisement can be of multiple types. But maybe when you're reading the case, you have no idea which advertising media is more profitable. Or maybe which advertising media is not so profitable. So you as a case reader, you are in a very difficult situation. Maybe you're not able to understand that how to pick up, the relevance of one particular media over the another media. So sometimes the cases do not explicitly mention the problem. So this kind of a problem actually needs to be identified by you. Now, when you are asked to solve a problem, basically what are you doing here? You're being very critical in nature. You're trying to use your analytical skills. And you're trying to evaluate based on your ability. The ability can be your cognitive thinking, your different kind of analytical procedure, or maybe your concepts which you have been using in the past. You can actually identify some of the important elements of the situation, and you try to investigate and finally conclude what is that right question to be answered. So when you're identifying these elements or maybe the factors, you're actually trying to generate as many alternative solutions as you can. And of course, by the end of it, you have to select one which appears to be good for you. Now take up an example, again a very simple example of a transport company. See, this kind of a company, let's assume, it's present in different countries and it has a wide network which is trying to connect the numerous cities. And the company is wonderfully doing well. It has earned good profits. Great. Its prices are very competitive. Customers are really happy with it. And particularly, they are satisfied because of its punctuality. Or I would say, the customers are satisfied because of the timely services being given by the company. So this is the standing of this particular, transport company. Now we have understood the framework here. Now let's imagine that the company now has a chance to render its services where they're not present at the moment. Of course, the expansion program is always lucrative, isn't it? It seems definitely like a great decision to grow the business. But is it a right decision or not? So how do we break down this case? How do we understand whether this lucrative decision is going to give us benefits in future or not? So if we are in charge of making that decision, we need to break down this problem. Now there will be, of course, some analysis to be done by you. I would say some fundamental analysis. First of all, you would try to understand whether this investment opportunity is fruitful, is lucrative, is profitable. And of course, when you're trying to understand this, you're going to separate, all the other functions the company is performing at the moment. For this, you need to calculate actually the return on investment. And of course, when you're making any new investment in the market, you've got to have a very clear-cut idea that what would be the return on investment. You should look at the market, try and understand your customers, right? And see that each and every kind of investment, because there is a lot of cost associated, you need to see how profitable it is going to be for you. You need to calculate the return. And then you need to measure that maybe this kind of return might be profitable and this kind of return might actually make your company survive and sustain. Now in this situation, let's assume that the return on investment is really good. So when we are, trying to analyze this case, we have made one thing very clear, that the return on investment is really nice. So of course, when the investment part is huge and the return is also huge, maybe the company might go ahead with this kind of a decision. But is that the only factor to be considered? Just think about it, my dear students. I give you a few seconds to ponder over this particular point. Is this the only point? Is it only that the return on investment should be calculated and that should be the primary and the only basis for you to make the decision? Think about it. You may drop your answers in the chat box and I'll answer that later. Now, for the second part of analysis, let's try and understand. Return on investment, very profitable. You need to assess actually the impact of that investment in whatever else the company is doing. Right? Because this kind of return on investment is not going to affect only one section of the company. But of course, it is going to affect each and every business they are into. Each and every section, each and every department for that matter. So of course, it's very difficult part to analyze, but you need to have a complete understanding of the business model of the company. And therefore, it becomes important for you to understand what are those important drivers which you need to keep in mind before this decision is taken. I again would like you to go back from where we started when I said, let's take up an example of a transport company. I said, the customers like the timely services. Can you please recall that point? So one of the key driver which has actually let the company be sustainable in the market is its timely services. And because of it, it has been able to capture the greater portion of the market with it. And yes, it has been able to beat the competition, that aggressive and rigorous competition in the market. Simply, the company would like to retain this competency and yet would like to be effective and expand its operations. Of course, I will not make any compromises. If I'm making one decision, it should not be negatively or adversely affecting any other part of my business operations. Yes or no? So don't you think that I'm taking into consideration the multiple factors when I'm trying to analyze this case? Simply over here, the question is, will the company be able to deliver its timely services, even if it expands its market operations? Just think about it, students. There are so many factors to be considered. We cannot just rely on one particular information given in the case. We have to see how and on what basis the company has been so profitable and so successful in the market. So, looking at the overall scenario, the solution to this simple case is not just looking at the real-term financial gains. Of course not. But the areas which might get affected, maybe directly or indirectly, when my decisions about making investments are done. Of course, you need to find out, can there be any other option? If I'm not making an investment in this particular area, can there be any option? Are there any multiple, options available, or maybe alternate solution available to me? And here comes the need to list out all the options, all the solutions, and of course, making a comparison of the merits and demerits, of the pros and cons of each and every kind of solution, or maybe, the option you have in your mind. I completely believe, my dear students, that, the ability to solve problem is a basic life skill. Of course, we've been doing that in our lives right from we were born. We've been taught to solve the problems every day. And it is essential, if you pick up everyday life problems, you will see that you don't even think about it while solving the problem. We solve every problem even without thinking about them. I'll just give you a very simple example here. You want to go to a supermarket, right? And it's raining. The only point over here is you don't want to get wet, but still you want to reach to your destination, isn't it? What you would do? There will be multiple solutions in your mind, I'm sure. Maybe you might take up an umbrella and go for a walk. Beautiful. And of course, maybe you can actually drive because you don't want to get wet. Or maybe you would like to call your friend and go for a ride, enjoy the weather. So it can be any kind of a solution. It can be any kind of a decision here, right? Or maybe you might also take up a decision to go to the store some another day. Maybe you're not interested anymore. So what I mean to say is, when you come across a problem, there are multiple solutions associated with it. And of course, there is no right way to solve any problem. And all of the people around, you are different and I'm different. You have your own perception, you have your own analytical thinking, you have your own problem-solving capacity. Therefore, different people will solve it differently. Isn't it? Just think about your life. You've done that. Your father has his own perception. You have your own perception. And there are a lot of tug-of-wars going on between you two. Isn't it? So the ability, to solve any kind of a problem is basically a skill. It's an art which you learn over a period of time. Just like any other skill. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And that's the beauty of understanding this case. So how exactly do you, practice this kind of a thing? How do you learn this art? How do you really become skilled at it? Have you ever thought about it? It's just about you try to learn, coming across different problems. You try to learn that how you have solved these different problems. And you also, give a kind of a retrospection about kind of decisions taken by you in past. And then finally, you see where you have gone right, where you have gone wrong, and that might give you the lessons for the future. Of course, most of the strategies here, when you try to solve a case, has to be done step by step. There has to be a particular kind of a sequence associated with it, and that's what we do in case study analysis. Of course, because your basic purpose is to reach to a solution, and solution which is a optimum solution. So generally, students talking about, this is a kind of a fundamental analysis which we do generally. We adopt two different kind of strategies. If you have any questions, you can drop those questions in the chat box. I would really love to answer them at the end of the session. So let's talk about these strategies first of all. I think a number of you come from the mathematical background, and everybody has learned how to solve problems, how to do those calculations and everything. So we call them the kind of algorithmic strategies, basically. So what do you do when you solve a mathematical problem? You have some kind of multiplication and division, you do it at addition and subtraction, and try to solve these kind of math problem. But whenever you apply any kind of a formula, Don't you think that formula is a fixed formula? Right? You know it that this is how, I will be reaching to my answer. That comes in your mind when you're solving any kind of math problem. So, you very, very clear right from the beginning that this is the correct order of solving the problem. We call it the algorithmic. We know it very well that this is the best way of doing it. And we know it very well that there is a single path when we want to reach to a correct solution, isn't it? That's what you do in math. You cannot go here and there. It's nothing theory. It's something very practical. You know there is a best formula to it. This is what is to be done, and you're clear with it. But now think about a situation where there is no single solution to your problem. Yes, of course. You might have come across number of problems. You might have given multiple, you can say solutions or maybe options in order to solve that problem. So yes, there are certain problems for which there can be multiple solutions. And we call them the heuristic method, a kind of a shortcut which we use, which will help us, which will guide us, which will help us in actually identifying all the possible solutions associated with it. So what are you doing here? Now somebody has actually dropped a message here that what are the different steps we follow when we are trying to analyze a case study, when you're trying to solve it. Basically what we do is we identify the problem. That's the first and the basic thing. If you're not aware about the problem, there is no solution to it. So one needs to understand, go through the case one by one, giving enough time to it. It's not about giving a multiple reading. It's about understanding the case when you read it. Read between the lines. Try and understand the context of the problem. When you have identified the problem, of course, there are a number of factors which are associated with this kind of a problem. We call it the context of the problem. And of course, as I said, you can apply any number of strategies, any kind of strategies, any kind of possible strategies, I would say, in order to solve it properly. And of course, you have to act, you have to take certain decision on the best solution. And as I was telling you, you need to identify that best solution, keeping in mind the pros and cons, maybe some kind of merits and demerits, and what kind of effect it might have on the overall working of my organization. So there are so many things which you need to understand, evaluate, and then finally you opt for a right solution. And of course, the last thing, look back and learn from your mistakes. Right? That's how you generally perform the action. So that's the way basically we try to analyze any problem, we try to analyze any kind of a case, and generally this is the kind of a method which we use. Now, number of things need to be identified and you all need to work on them. As I said, that the problem identification is the main part of it. Now think about problem identification. We actually, when we're trying to evaluate the case, we want to get into the roots of the case. Basically, what I'm asking you to is, go to the root cause of that particular problem. We apparently look at everything. We try to have a very superficial kind of an overview on it, right? On any kind of problem or any kind of a case. I again would like to pick up a very practical example here. You can also drop that in the chat box here. How many of you really feel that you're very confident and you can really go on the stage and speak confidently without any kind of sensation? Just think about it. There are few people, I'm sure, who might be thinking that I'm really not a good public speaker. Yes, I'm sure that might strike your mind. See, when this problem gets into your mind that you're not a good public speaker, what exactly do you do next? You really want a solution to this problem. You really want maybe some institute to give you the right platform which might groom you up, right? You really want somebody to give you a push. You really want somebody to make you more confident when you go and speak on stage. But just think about it once. Are they really trying to understand what is that root cause? Which is actually prohibiting, which is actually withdrawing you from becoming a good public speaker. It can be your emotional problems. It can be your family problems. It can be your background. It could be just n number of reasons. It is not just that you haven't done it, so you cannot do it. There can be multiple reasons. So whenever you're trying to understand any kind of a problem, just understand what is the root cause. And if you get into that root, it will be very difficult for you to really not being able to attain the right answer to it. It's easy, in fact. Get into it, answer the problem. There can be some vague problems also you might have come across. So you basically need to investigate everything you can. All kind of facts and figures, right, associated with it, all kind of information required to understand that why so-and-so person is not a good public speaker, or maybe what is exactly the reason of a company to go in losses. Why is it that my one particular business unit is more productive than the another particular business unit? So there can be n number of problems, and there can be different reasons for that company to go in losses. Go to the root cause. Do not understand and evaluate the case superficially. That's the need. Ask yourself as many questions you want to ask about a problem. What do you know about it? How much information do you have? Or maybe what is that you do not know about the case? That needs to be worked on. You need to be very, very curious. You need to ask as many questions as you can. You have to, gather all kind of facts, figures, information as much as you can and make logical deductions. That's what. Try to make the logical deductions. It has to be based on your cognitive and analytical thinking. You need to use your background information rather than just relying on assumptions. You cannot solve the problem based on any kind of, assumptions to be made. I really would like to share one experience with you here. I'm sure you're understanding because I'm trying to put it up in a very layman's language and something very practical, easy to understand. But even if you have any questions and not being able to interpret anything, you can always drop a message in the chat box, please. As a professor, I'm a marketing professor at Taxila Business School, and I teach marketing and I take a lot of cases. When I, try to understand from my students' perspective, I, often ask them one question. Especially I'm talking about my alumni, who leave the campus, after they're being taught and they get their own degree. I always ask them one very, very important question, and that's one of my favorite questions here. What is that important thing which made you learn from your time in your MBA program? What is that important thing you learned? And of course, there are multiple reasons coming to me, multiple answers coming to me. Each and every person has his own, understanding of what actually they gained out of this program. Some of them really mentioned that they had kind of close friendships. Some of the students, they said that, their classmates, they became their business partner or maybe life partner and so on. Nice. Nice to hear actually from those alumni who pass out from your campus and really doing wonderfully good in their life. Very nice. But I was very delighted when I heard that some of the alumni really highlighted very strong personal quality or maybe a skill which they actually gained out of this program. They said it has increased their self-confidence. Or some of them, they also said that they have been able to learn the art of advocating or supporting their viewpoint. Or, some of the students, they also said that they know how to work closely with others, to work in groups and understand the situation and then solve the problem. Yes, of course, the nicest of the things they have learned over a period of time. I again asked them that how did they really develop these qualities or these kind of capabilities? They had a very clear-cut answer to this, and I really liked it. They said that it's a magic of the case method. A magic of the case method. But how? Because we've been seeing that everybody, who is given the case, the class who is given the case, they spend a lot of time in analyzing it. They practice it. Case basically exposes the students to the real life business dilemmas, the situations. They actually teach the students to understand the businesses quickly as much as they can. And of course, they have to keep into consideration the organizational context, the industry context, or maybe the societal context, or maybe the economical context, and so on. So students can actually recall the concepts better when they are all set in a case, instead of just going in the class and making them theoretically understand the concepts which you really want to be registered in the mind of your students. So cases are actually giving you a kind of a platform where you can apply theory in practice, and you can actually induce this theory from practice. And that's what my students have been doing. So apart from that, if you think about the cases, students, I really want to mention that some of the skills, we call it basically the meta skills. So these cases will help you in developing your meta skills. Now question arises, what is this meta skill? It's nothing very technical here. It's nothing but it's a kind of group or maybe some kind of long-lasting abilities which a person learns. And it gives you enough opportunities to learn new things more quickly. So you have developed that skill which might help in developing certain other skills in your life very quickly and very easily. That is your meta skill. Let me just give you a very simple example here again. Now today is a very competitive era, and each and every parent wants his child to be competent in all the domains and all the areas. So maybe there is a parent who might send his child to learn some kind of a sport. I send my children for basketball. For instance, there are multiple games the parents prefer to. Now, my aim over here is, when I'm sending my child to learn this game, is it's not about just learning the game. Just think about it. Do some kind of brainstorming here. Is it just that I'm preferring my child to learn basketball? Of course, there will be very few students who might excel in this kind of a game. Few students might not, but they might be enjoying it, right? They go just for fun's sake. So here I would say that I would actually prefer the benefits which come, right, when my child is playing that game. For example, you become very consistent in your practice, which might be really useful in your actual life, when you're doing your homework, when you're doing some kind of practice in your cases and so on. Maybe it's trying to develop your sportsmanship. Maybe you become more disciplined. Yes or no? You become more planned, in fact. So these are some of the qualities which you develop through this game, and we call them meta skills. Now, once these meta skills are developed, I know how to be disciplined in my life. I know I'm a kind of a person who doesn't take defeats to my heart and mind. I know even if I'm defeated, I'll put more practice into it, and I'll be excelling in future. That's what I want my child to learn, and that's what I want my students to learn. These kind of meta skills which will help you in planning your future beautifully. Isn't it valuable? Apart from learning just how to attempt a case, you learn so many things. I still remember when I give them the case in the class that they have a lot of fear with them. They know I'll be calling out somebody's name and I'll ask them to open the case. Of course, somebody has to open the case. You know what? When they fear it, they prepare it. They know anyone's name would be called out in the class, so they come to the class well prepared. They spend a lot of hours, several hours in reading. They try to highlight each and every fact and figure. They debate before they enter to my class. Sometimes they do it alone, sometimes they do it in group. So everything is fruitful for me. So whenever they are in my class, I know the discussion is going to be aggressive. So my students have actually learned to be prepared. They know how to read the materials in advance. They know what is the priority in their life. They know how to understand what are the key important issues. And they know what is the viewpoint of that writer and what is my viewpoint on that. meta skill. It actually helped people around to be very, very professional, to be very successful in their life. That's what meta skill we want to develop. So of course, case study method is a wonderful way of teaching you this art. And you might be knowing a person who is really well prepared, who knows about everything, any kind of a topic. He can actually gain the trust and confidence of others. And when you go to a business meeting well prepared, of course, the kind of impression you're going to make is going to be fabulous, isn't it? That's what is the beauty of the case study analysis. So, you're trying to focus more on the case, more on the facts and figures. But when you're reading the case, there are certain things which might be really appearing to you important. And certain things which you really feel that can be ignored. You may do that when you're reading the case. Maybe you find that the kind of problem which I've identified, maybe this kind of information has no connection to it. It is just for the sake of information that so and so viewpoint have been mentioned in the cases. So you can skim it. Perfectly all right. So we actually say it's about ignoring the noise. You can skim it. You can actually filter the information which is coming to you. Visualize your current situation. This digital marketing and everything. We are in the era where there's a lot of information overload. But how much are you able to retain? Or how much information you pay attention? Of course, there is a filtering of message and filtering of information which happens automatically. And that's what you even need to do in your case study analysis. You can, but of course, you need to be very, very clear about it that you're not ignoring the relevant facts from the cases. Okay, and this of course will happen slowly and gradually when you start attempting the case, when you start, attempting or understanding it from your own perspective. So you know what is right and what is wrong. See, when I'm saying that you attempt it from your own perspective, I actually mean to say that we all have a certain kind of biasness in the sense that when we are reading the case, we become little biased. And I'm sure you will be surprised to know that when you're reading the case, where is the biasness here? Because, you don't know the people there in the case, so how you can become biased. But it generally happens. The student coming from the finance background will definitely read the case with a finance lens. It happens automatically. A student coming from the IT background, a student coming from a marketing background, they will have their own IT or marketing lens when they're viewing the case. So of course, when you're discussing so many number of cases, that will help you in understanding your own biasness. I, coming from a financial background, since I'm trying to understand and interpret the case only from the financial perspective is not right. Company has multiple problems. The company needs to understand the problem from different angles. And that's what is the beauty again of the case. You cannot just have one single perspective when you're trying to analyze a case. You got to have different perspectives here. Of course, so when you try and read the case, you need to understand what could be that perspective. Maybe when you read it first, you found, yes, this is how I understand the case. When you read it second time, maybe there are certain more things which might click your mind. And that's how you reduce your biasness, which is very important. So, over here, the conclusion is that you try to have the different viewpoints, which will actually help you in understanding the cases and reducing your biasness here. That's what is more important. Apart from that, a very, very important point again, when you're trying to analyze a case, you all will certainly have your own approach. Of course, you will all have your own perspective, and which is going to be different from each other. But you all are suggested here, my dear students, that you have to understand the situation and give it solution from different perspectives. Your answers cannot be same even if you're doing that brainstorming in a group, right? Because you all come from a different background. You all have your own perception. You all have your mental ability. So it cannot be just same. Maybe one perspective will help you in surviving. If you're giving a solution for a business which is going in losses, just think about it. Maybe another perspective with which you came up a solution might help your business to become an industry leader. Think about it. Yes, it can happen. So, of course, whatever decisions you're making, they have to be made in the lights of facts and figures. It cannot be just on random basis. We've been talking about a business, right? I took up an example of a company which is going in losses, and there can be enormous number of reasons. You know, you need to find out multiple reasons. You need to find out which reason is more prominent, which reason needs more focus. So, you know, prioritizing the things here. I can just see a question over here, you know, in the chat box. You say that if you have multiple reasons, then, you know, multiple problems, then how do you find a solution to it? See, when you are giving a solution, you need to see that which is more important to you, which is, you know, more crucial, and based on that, you start giving your focus and attention to it. But of course, if your case is describing multiple problems, it becomes your duty to cater to each and every problem, right? Because you have your own perspective. Maybe you've been able to identify 10 different problems. Maybe there is one student who says, I could identify only one. So it's completely how, you know, intensely you get involved with the case. That is very, very important. So proper analysis is actually the key to success here, right? Apart from that, one thing is very clear, that if you're trying to understand it from different perspectives, if you're trying to understand with different approaches, of course the answers are going to be different, right? But yes, answers will be different, but you cannot actually make your answers dependent just on assumptions. You know, as I initially said, that your case should not be relying majorly on the assumptions. For example, if I want to solve a case, and there are certain assumptions in my mind which I keep, and the answer I give based on that assumption would actually not be right. I must believe that the facts and figures are very important to me. I must believe that data provided in the case is very relevant, and I should consider it. For example, you know, as we discussed, there can be number of reasons for a company to go in losses, right? That's what we were discussing about right from the beginning. Just one single example to make you understand the different points here about the case. But you know, you cannot make an assumption that profits will automatically accrue when the US economy takes a boost, or when there are good international trade relations with the other countries. So India should really, you know, work on that bonding. Or maybe when the government is taking certain specific decisions, so it would have a very good impact on my business. Absolutely not. You cannot assume these things. You cannot really say that if so and so happens, automatically my company will be able to earn profits. No, you cannot rely your decisions just on these assumptions. That's my suggestion to everyone. No assumptions, please. So I'll just highlight few of the points here which are really relevant and important. You need to understand that you have your own approach. You need to understand that there is no rule of thumb to solve a case study. You need to know that you can develop your own framework to solve the case. You have your own approach to solve the case. That is very, very important. You also need to understand that you're actually trying to converse, or maybe you're trying to interact with the person to whom you're presenting your ideas, right? So आपको इस तरीके से case को open करना है that your analysis appears to be a kind of an interaction with the person, you know, to whom you're presenting this kind of a case. I completely agree. You are here in a competition, and where you would like actually to be the best, and you would like to answer all the questions. But see, understand, it's not a comprehension. It's not a comprehension. You don't have to think about answering the question. Because let me tell you very, very clearly, answer doesn't lie only in the case. Answer also lies in your approach of understanding the case. Therefore, complete understanding is important and is relevant. That's what I would like to say and make you understand. So, you have to be really sometimes good at number when you're solving that, algorithmic problems here. I don't say that you need to be very, very good at maths here, but just the basic analysis would also do. just to play with numbers in a very competent way and using the tools to analyze it would be more than enough. So that's all, you can actually do with the numbers and everything. So just try and review it. There will be a number of challenges you might come across. So now, in the end, in fact, I would say, when you're actually putting down your case, because I can see a number of questions coming here that what should be the, the sequence when you're solving a case, one needs to be very, very clear with it. You have to understand, discuss the case, identify a problem which you're coming across. Whatever discussion we had, I'm just putting it down in a very brief manner in points here, so that which will help you in, laying down a case in a very precise and a particular format, right? So you need to understand that there is a basic problem. You need to understand there are certain constraints a business problem has. There are certain boundaries you need to set. Then you might come to the next step of doing some kind of a framework or some kind of analysis. For example, when my students are presenting the case, I generally tell them that you might go for, SWOT analysis or maybe PESTEL analysis, or you can also opt for VRIO framework, which is generally done in case of strategic management. So SWOT is understanding the strengths and weaknesses, which is a kind of an internal analysis of the business, and you do the opportunities and threats profile, which is kind of external analysis of the business, and you see that can you really base your decision based on the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. And then you do the PESTEL analysis in the way that, there are certain political issues in the country, certain economic issues in the country, societal, technological, legal issues and so on. So whether these kind of issues need to be handled and taken care of before you do that analysis, right? I can actually see one question here, somebody dropping a message that if we consider these factors, aren't we making an assumption? No, we are not making an assumption here. Just think about it. This is something which is a real life framework. When you're trying to understand a business problem and when you're trying to associate it with the different factors externally present in your business environment, you're doing a practical analysis. There are no assumptions. I'm not assuming that this is how the legal status of my country would be. I'm not assuming that these are my export or import policies. No, I'm considering the real facts and figures and then finally concluding on this is the legal status I really need to consider when I'm solving my case. So there is no assumption here, my dear student. All right. And of course, when you do that framework, that will automatically give you the kind of possible solutions. And as I said, all kind of solutions will have its own pros and cons. So, highlight that pros and cons. You can actually put it down into a tabular form, try to present your solutions, try to make it that maybe I'm giving the priority to one solution over the another solution because of so and so reason, and this is what the company can do. So you can actually develop that beauty of the case yourself. And of course, one best possible solution needs to be, concluded on. And one more important thing, each and every kind of a solution has its own implication. It would result into something. It might affect the business sometimes adversely, maybe for a short period of time, maybe in long term you gain success. So there are certain kind of managerial implications which you need to work on. Okay, you need to see how it would affect the business, maybe in a short term or maybe in a long term. And then finally you may conclude the way you feel like. I'm sure this case study analysis webinar has given you enough points about how this case has to be analyzed and how you can basically conclude on this case. I would just request my IT team to share one presentation with you. I will give you an idea about the rules and regulations and how you can actually upload the cases. I have a lot of questions here coming up to me that how you can upload the case and so on. So can I have the presentation first of all on the rules and regulations, sir? I'll also prefer to show you the case study. So this is, as I have already told you, we have more than 2,500 participants now. And really glad that you have shown that zeal and excitement to be a part of this case study competition. We have 2 rounds here. Round 1, which has already begun, and the case study will be uploaded by 2 in the afternoon. And you have to really precisely talk about a case. In 1500 words, you can submit your solution. There is one link given in the website on MBAROI.in. You can click that actionable button, and your case study will be uploaded. You can actually submit it in, I have questions here, that can that be submitted in the doc format? Of course you can. MS Word would also do, and you can also make a PDF of the same and submit it. Then, of course, prizes, as you all know, you must have gone through that. I think that's the basic and the first attraction the student has. The first prize is 8,000, second prize is 5,000, and third prize is 3,000. And certificate of participation will be given to all the candidates who are participating in this case study competition. Along with that, 2 ebooks will be provided, and that is the Digital Marketing and Startup Success. Schedule I would like to share with you. I have already taken one webinar with you here on how to solve a case study, and then you can also attend a webinar. Timings are going to be almost same every day. In fact, it's same every day at 11:30 every morning. And on 16th, you have leadership lessons from Harvard Business School. Mr. Rahul Singh, who is HBS Harvard Business School founder, catking.in. Then on 24th February 11:30, you have the presentation of the selected students. We have more, in fact, coming in, I think one with the finance faculty over here. So do we have that, or are we missing on that? Yes, there it is. So how to present the case study is done. How to present a case study will be actually taken care by Professor Alok Jagga, who is from Taxila Business School. Then we have on 18 February 11:30, finance for non-finance students. And Dr. Rajesh Kothari, is working as the advisor at Taxila Business School, will be taking that webinar with you. On 19 February at 11:30, again, you have one webinar, how we prepare students for placement at Taxila, and I will be taking that webinar with you again. As I have already told you, on 24th February, 11:30, there will be a presentation of the selected students in round 1. I again have a question here that how many students will be selected to present in the final round. Let me tell you, since we have ample number of participation here, we decided on a very few number, but we are thinking of increasing that number. And you will be informed via mail, and you will be getting that in your inbox, so don't worry about it. So we will be giving enough number of chances to the students. And the case study solution, as I told you, PDF and doc format. Of course, this is very important when you are writing down the name of your file. You have to use the student name and then your college name, and then it can be a PDF or a Word file. I hope that answers all the question. Yes, one important thing here, as I said, you will be making the case study analysis in 1500 words. That makes it to around 3 to 5 pages. And when the selected students are informed about the final round, round 2, these students have to log in at 11:30. I think that's the same time here. And the presentation time which will be given to them to present their case would be 7 to 10 minutes. And approximately, maximum I would say, up to 10 slides can be made by them. So you have to actually base your slides based on the case analysis which you have done. All right, and the date is already given to you. That is going to be on 24th February 2022, where you will have the panel of judges judging you on different parameters. Sir, I would like to show the case study to my students here. So this is the case study. As I told you that this competition is on 2 different platforms, that is MBAROI.in and Taxila Business School, which is a knowledge partner. This case has been designed by the institute itself. We really want our students to stay updated in this era, so we have picked up a very current topic, that how Tata and Air India have collaborated now. In fact, Tata has taken over. So just go through the case. The case is, has been designed in such a way that gives you a very simple understanding of it, that, something about the Tata Group, about Air India, about, how the Tata originated, basically Tata Air, and go on, and then finally the takeover which happened. Then you had a fall of it basically. How did that really fall? What exactly happened? What were the reasons behind? And then the comeback of the company. So we have laid down right from the beginning, from 1932 to October 21, what exactly happened, and how did the company try to take over this particular share. The transaction details in terms of bidding, as you all know, that TELUS was the one which came up with the 18,000 bidding consortium led by Mr. Ajay Singh, and this is how the case has gone. The winning. Just an overview of the case, the assets and liabilities, the consolidated revenue, and of course you need to know what Air India is, about the company, the losses, the terms of the deal. So this is how the case study is. I'm sure you're going to enjoy reading it. It's the latest topic. One should have a good knowledge about it, that what really made Tata take over this organization. All right, I think we end up this webinar, but still, if you have any questions, I would like to answer them. So can I really see the chat box here? So some of the students are asking me about the recording of the webinar. Will it be available or not? Yes, this recording of the webinar will be available on MBAROI.in website. So you have one particular link there. You can visit the website. It will be uploaded by 2. Steps of solving, we have already done that. So there was one, Mr. Muhammad is talking about that he was given a case study of Marriott Hotel. And, there were certain things which were not clearly given in the case, that whether it's a chain of hotel or not. So are we making any kind of assumptions here? See, Mohammed, sometimes the case does not give you the information, all the information in fact. So you're not making an assumption when you are saying that it's a chain of hotel. It's basically based on the kind of information you already have. And it is expected from a student like you to know a little about, the chain of hotels, to know about how and from where to get this data from. So, see, when you're talking about the hotel industry, of course, you need to visit the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India website and try to find out that which kind of hotel or which category of hotel is it, and where does it, in which kind of category it falls into. So, I think you're not making any assumption, but basically you're relying your research based on facts and figures. And of course, these resources have to be reliable enough. I can actually see one talking about the same one. Somebody has dropped a question here in the chat box. Then how do we know that the source is authentic or not? Yes, of course, you really need to see, as I gave you an example here, that you need to visit the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, so which is a reliable website. So when you're visiting it, you know that you will be getting the authentic information, and that's what is expected. You as a student, you have to understand what is authentic and what is not. You cannot rely on each and every information coming to you. So, so if we conclude that the Marriott is the chain of hotels, so are we not making an assumption? No, we are not making an assumption here. This is a question coming, and let me tell you, this kind of assumption is assumption when you do it on your own. But when you basically create a base for your understanding and you try to rely on the facts and figures, you cannot make it an assumption, right? So, ma'am, I'm pursuing MBA. Can I register for this? Yes, ma'am. Sure, you can. I would say that information is for everyone, and this contest is available for all these students here. And wherever you have the content coming from, you must apply, right? So somebody is saying that he's pursuing, and he's trying for MBA. Of course, good. You are actually attempting and you are preparing yourself for MBA. Make sure that you rely on the right information. Make sure that you get, into a college which has good placement record and which gives you enough return on investment. And where to submit the case study and upload it. As I said, the link will be available on the website. So each and every information is there. You can always visit the website, go through all the information that is expected from all of you. So how many cases will be in the final round? As I've already answered, we have enough opportunities with us. So depending, because we have good number of students participating with us, so we'll be giving enough opportunities and enough number of chances to the student. All right? Thank you. Thank you so much then. I'm sure that you have enjoyed this webinar, and please be with us for a couple of more days till you actually analyze this case. You have a couple of other webinars coming up on different topics, as I have already told you. And just be there with us. Enjoy your time. Thank you so much.